Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Karen and Angel, Dan, Catherine, Sandy, and Lori. And today we are going to continue our discussion of the book Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett. Oh, thanks, Dan. Thanks for showing us the book. Appreciate that. Well, let me just say what we're going to talk about this week. This week, we're going to talk about chapter 1 and maybe into chapter 2, where they're talking about who are you and suggesting that we are the creator of ourselves, or you are your own creator. But before we go forward, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. Excuse me. And for those of you who are watching, comment under the Facebook meeting and let us know that you're out there and that you're paying attention. And feel free to comment on anything that we talk about here. So go ahead and jump out, guys. Introduce yourselves, and then we can get this chat going.
I'm Angel, and I'm down here in South Carolina.
Hi, I'm Karen Mohawk in Mesa, Arizona.
Oh, sorry, we stepped on each other, Karen.
Dan Sisek in Las Vegas, Nevada.
It's hard to tell sometimes when everybody's unmuting. I heard you, Lori and Karen. Sandy's here in the background, and Catherine will probably be back on here in just a moment. She's having some internet issues. So anyway, we're talking about Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett. In the beginning of chapter 2, they're asking us, who are you really? I'll just kind of read a little bit here at the beginning. It says, as we have said, to understand that there is no beginning, you've got to understand that there is no question of who you are. You are, as so eloquently put by the Buddha, the result of all that you have thought. The Bible tells us something the same. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So ask yourself, what are my thoughts? Where do they come from? Just what, who, and how am I? And we'll help by giving you the answer. You are unlimited thought. You are infinite vibration. You are energy within a field viewing itself as a connected individualization of source. Think of it this way. When God moved upon the waters, and so he starts into that, and then refers to this story in the Bible of when God moved upon the waters as an allusion to the illusion of how you think you came into being, rather how you came to find yourself, defining yourself as an individualized self, free of any innate connection to creation or to that which you call God. So it's kind of saying that that we are the creator, and that we created ourselves, and we created this illusion of separation from God. And so, oh wait, there's Catherine. Let me let her back. So what do you guys think about that whole idea of we're unlimited thought, we're creating ourselves? What are you guys' thoughts when you first read that part in the chapter? What did you think? Who wants to jump out?
I don't think I'm quite there yet, but in that chapter, but what you just read and what the way I look at it and my feelings, I think for me it's kind of a combination of both. I think we are one and together, but I think there's not as how do I say this? There's a separation in a sense that we are our human selves, and we see, can see and sense and feel that. But I think when we become aware of God, or I call it God, but you may call it infinite intelligence, the universe, whatever. I think we get that connection, or we reconnect with something that we feel has always been there. We just didn't know how to get back in connection with it. If that kind of makes sense.
I'll jump back out. I'll jump out. I think that it just kind of, I thought it made sense and kind of reaffirmed what I've been feeling, about the whole we are divine beings and we are God. And it's true. We have kind of put that separation in between, and we've placed that what we call God outside of each other or ourselves. So I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, I think it just kind of reaffirmed what I believed, really, is that we are still divine beings, but we have placed it outside of ourselves, and we need to put it back in, I guess. I'm not really sure. I guess it'll come to me as we discuss further, I guess. All right.
This is all such a nebulous topic and hard to grasp sometimes, but I think we are all, I think it's quantum physics where you learn that we're all 99.999 empty space and basically insignificant when we think everything is so eminent and such a huge impact everywhere, and so it kind of makes you feel small. Guess it's a topic that everyone's kind of stumped on this morning. We're not talking much.
I came on after whatever quote was given. If you could repeat that for me.
Yeah, I kind of just was reading kind of the beginning of chapter 1 here, where he was talking about or asked the question, "Who are you?" and then suggests this, as a man thinks, that's how he is, and that we are the creator. But also asks us, to examine what our thoughts are, where they come from, who and what and how am I, and then tells us the answer is your unlimited thought, your infinite vibration, your energy within a field viewing itself as a connected individualization of source. And then talks about God moving upon the waters and how that's an allusion to the illusion of separation that we've created for ourselves. So we were all just kind of talking about what we're thinking about that.
Yep, we're fractals. Like Lori was saying, we're all space. We are a thought, evidently. And if you think about a computer programmer, he comes up with a thought for a program and designs it, and there you go, and there we are. So I don't know. I mean, with science hasn't even figured out the human body yet. So I don't, like a virus has damn near taken out the whole civilization at this point. Like we have a lot to learn, and I don't know what to think about any of it most of the time. I do have experiences where I feel completely connected with everything and everyone, and just in that, pure heart love space. And those moments are so real that that is the realest thing that I experience in my life, probably are those moments, and I treasure them. And they happen frequently for me, thankfully, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is definitely an illusion, and a lot of things that we, like you said, Lori, we put a lot of significance on things that really shouldn't have so much significance in our lives. And where do thoughts come from? You know, I've been trying to figure that out because I can have some pretty crazy ones. And I think that, you know, and they just come out of nowhere. And I was actually listening to some material last night, and it was talking about how a lot of people feel like they don't have abilities, gifts like, you know, being psychic or a medium, or they're not connected to their angels or whatever because of the way that Hollywood has portrayed being a psychic and a medium, you know, with these like HD visions in your head that's like a full, you know, blown Hollywood movie. And it's not like that. It's very subtle. And even psychic hits are, you know, people are always saying, well, how can I tell if it's my if it's a psychic ability, if it's a message from an angel, or if it's just my fear or anxiety speaking? It's because of how it comes. Does it come with a lot of emotion? That's you, because they're not emotional. Um, does it come and like stay with you all day long and just nag at you and you're trying to figure it out? And you know, that's you, that's anxiety. Because when you get a psychic hit, it's almost like a soft whisper that just lands on your brain. I mean, I can get visions and hear voices and things like that, but a lot of times it's just like this leaf that blows through my mind. And where does that come from? And you know, some of the thoughts that I have, I swear I think they're coming from like an alternate reality, because I'm ready to like decapitate somebody. I mean, I'm like a Viking warrior chick or some shit. I don't know. So, you know, where do thoughts come from? If you're an empath, are you taking them on from other people? So those are great things to ponder, but whether we'll ever really find the answers, I don't think so, until we're out of this experience and into a larger one.
I'm so glad you mentioned angels and experiences with angels, because I don't know if you were on earlier when I mentioned the fall that I had taken on Monday. I had fallen backwards on my back and head, the back of my head, on one of those, you know, concrete floors with a little slice of linoleum on it. And this woman said, I'll get someone to help you, and brought this man who was, you know, who was noticeably smaller than I was. And I had had earlier in the year a fall where two caregiver females had tried to get me up, and it was, you know, it was something that I thought was not going to happen. And so here's this individual man. He says, do you want to sit up? And I said, yes, I'd like to. And he just reached his arms behind me and had me sitting up immediately. And then he said, do you want to stand up? And I said, I'd like to, but I can't even imagine that you could possibly, you know, lift me up. I mean, who can lift up a 700-pound woman? And so, and by darn, he just put his hands around me again and just lifted me straight up, just had me right, you know, right smash against him. And he said, do you want to go over to there? They had little brick seats all around and outside. And I said, I really would. I don't expect, you know, that you can do this. And he marched me right over there, sat me down. And, you know, he paid attention. He was leaf blowing. And I'm not sure what all else, but he paid attention to what was going on with me. And when it came time for me to head past these other buildings to get to where my car would come, he held on to me right next to my side, held held this arm just really tight and walked with me. And when I came home, I said, I had an angel. I had an angel help me, and that's really how I feel. And I really appreciate that. Uh, that was my experience. I think, most of us don't have that experience very often, and it was really good for me to feel treasured like that by somebody I didn't even know. In fact, I only thought to ask him his name when he was helping me get in the car. And so I'm just really grateful that there are experiences like that.
I was going to jump out and say, I think we've all had instances, where we've had something like that happen in our lives, and I don't think we're tuned in enough to realize that that's what it's been. And if you are, I think, tuned in enough to understand it and accept it and experience it for what it is, I think, yeah, I think it is a real blessing that you can realize that, that it really was a blessing at that moment, that, there was the right person, the right, uh, circumstance or whatever to bring that about. So I do believe in them, and I think I've had them before, and I sometimes feel I've noticed it, but other times I had no clue too.
Catherine, I'm glad that you brought out the idea of that everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people have this misconstrued idea of how uh, we're communicated with, psychically or anything for that matter. I mean, all in the movies, it's always so over dramatized. I mean, even just memories. I was watching a silly show last night. Deep Space Nine, Star Trek was on, and it was doing a flashback from one of the characters, and they were showing this such detailed memory. And I'm like, when is memory ever that detailed? I'm like, I don't remember the exact number of candles that were on my cake, 25 years ago when I was 6 years old. I mean, really? I don't know. It's stuff like that. But I've experienced kind of the same thing as when it's just kind of like this little light bulb moment, or the message comes through. It's so small, or like you were saying, it's like a whisper almost. And a lot of times with me, I'll have a dream, I'll remember the dream, and I'll be sitting here and I'll be examining this dream and going, okay, that was a weird experience. What does that mean exactly? And I kind of look at each aspect of it. And when I look at a specific aspect, I'll have this just kind of like little message in the back of my head saying this is what that means. And then I'll be like, I guess that does make sense. Looking at it like from the human perspective of that thing doesn't make it sense at all. But when you hear the little message in the back of your mind that's saying, yep, this is what it means, then it's like, I guess so. So it's how you get those messages. And even when I've had, like I've been in a meditation, and I'm just meditating, I'm clearing my mind, and I'm maybe visualizing myself in kind of like a garden, and I have kind of like a tree that I sit underneath that I kind of see as like, I don't know, mother tree or something. I'm not sure what I just kind of think it as like the wisdom tree, and I'll be sitting there, and it'll show me something, and it'll be something so very minor, or it'll look really small visually, but it will be profound in the message that I receive from that. And I always know that that's a message from my higher self, or from our God selves, or whatever it is. It's the other side, I guess, that I'm not sure where the message comes from. Like you were saying, Catherine, I don't know where the thoughts come from, but I can definitely tell when it's my human self that is having thoughts, because it's all full of emotion and frustration and anger and whatever. But when I'm experiencing my higher self, if you will, it's always just peaceful and calm without really any major emotion to it. It's just kind of like this level, even law feeling, if you will. And it's little things that I'll get that. And it's like the other day I was out in the backyard and I was blowing the leaves with our leaf blower, and I'm seeing all the leaves flying around and the sun is shining, and I just have this kind of like peacefulness come over me, and I'm like, time just kind of stands still, and you're just in that moment, and without thinking about anything else, and that's a beautiful thing too. So I I feel like that's kind of what this chapter is kind of trying to allude to, this whole thoughts and that we create. And because when we are in our human self and we're having these heavy emotions, as we are creating that reality for ourselves. So when we're frustrated or we're angry or we're whatever, we experience that. That's what we're experiencing. We've created it. And in some ways we kind of can create it for each other, in because we know how we're going to react to things. So like in the movies, they create these movies, or these, you read a book, or you see a TV show, and it tells you a story, and in the story it creates this emotional response in you. And even though we say we create our own experience, we also react to things that we've been programmed to react to, so then we can have those experiences. And so it's just really interesting how, but if we're looking at this as we are just, we are all God, and we are all here together as individual humans. So if this other human, which is some other aspect of ourselves, creates something to cause us to have an emotional reaction, are we really, that's us creating that for ourselves? Woo woo. Right? So, okay, I'll mute for a minute.
I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning really quick, and then I'll step out and let somebody else talk. Sorry about that, Dan. I see you were trying to come out. At the very beginning, you said, you'll have this dream and you'll remember the dream, and then you'll sit down and you'll ask, I wonder what that meant. That's the key to communicating is to ask. So I just wanted to point that out.
And interesting that you brought that point out, because earlier this week I had a dream that I hadn't had in a while, and it's been a good, maybe a couple years since I've had it. And it was the same dream as I had the first time. And I know this place. I know I've been there. In fact, I believe I've driven it before, because it's a certain route. And when I get in that area, I definitely know it. But yet, at the same time, I don't know it. It's like I'm trying to picture and think of where this place is. And I know it's somewhere near here or near where I live. But in my physical self, I'm just trying to think, where is this place? I know it. I want to go find it again and see why it's popped up a couple times in my dreams and what it means. As well as when I was in high school, I went on a trip for a wrestling tournament to a suburb outside of Cleveland, Ohio, and there was the school that we went to for the wrestling tournament. I knew I sensed I had been there before. I felt comfortable in that place, and I sensed that I'd been there before, but I didn't understand that. I just kind of but then about 20, maybe no, about 30, close to 30 years later, I dreamed about that place again, and it once again seemed very familiar, and I never really took stock in those what it was, or I just thought it was just whatever. But now as we're going in, and the things we covered over the years makes me wonder what it is about these two specific dreams that I've had and what they're meaning, and then talking about when you were talking about instances from your childhood that you can remember like everything about that memory. I don't remember everything about the birthday party, but I remember my mom's birthday cake for when my real mother's birthday cake for when she turned 25. I was 9 years old, but it was blue and white. It had like blue flowers on it, and on it written in blue, it said "Happy Quarter of a Century," and that left such I remember it, and I think that's why I don't want to. I think that's why I don't like blue. Red's my favorite color, something very different and so opposite of that. But it left such an indelible mark on me because at 9, I thought that was really old when it said quarter of a century. So for me, that's a memory that is so there in my brain that, and then when I hit 25, that was a hard year for me. It was hard to turn 25 because of the impact that it had on me from when I was a kid. Now, when I turned 30, it was nothing. It's so weird, but a lot of people say turning 30 is hard because it seems like that changeover from being young and being a kid to being more of an adult. And that's was weird, but that made me think of those things and then bringing up the couple dreams that I've had lately.
I'll hop out. Good morning, Sandy here. Since we're speaking about dreams, I still haven't processed one I had this morning, but I like what you said, Catherine, about asking because this week I've just been reevaluating some of my friendships and some that aren't aligning, or where I feel tense around certain people, and I'm like, what is that? Why do I feel this tension? Like, if I want to feel relaxed and flowing around my friends, and it's been such a wild year, so I know I've done a lot of changing too. And when we change, our external changes, our relationships change because they see us differently because we are different, and the energy just shifts. So I've been looking at that a lot and asking questions out there, just to Creator, to God, like what am I supposed to see here, or what is going on? Because things just feel a little strange in some of my relationships that I can't put my finger on. And so I had this dream this morning. I'm going to an event tonight, and I'm picking up a friend that we don't hang out that much, or more of acquaintances. But she really wanted to go. I invited her, and I like her, so I'm like, oh yay, like get to know this friend more. So she's not one of the friends that I'm feeling this weirdness with. But in the dream, it was the next day after the event, and I'm still at the event, and I'm like, I totally forgot to pick her up. I didn't pick her up. what happened? And I'm freaking out, like, oh my God, she really wanted to go to this event, and I forgot to pick her up. And so I still haven't processed what this means, but I feel like it's something with the friendship stuff that I've been asking about this week. So after this, or when I have time later after my office, I'm going to write it down and see if I can get some clarity on it. Because in the dream, it was bizarre. And I was at this event with other friends, but I felt disconnected. And, I just kept wondering, like, what am I going to tell her? I totally forgot to pick her up. And she hasn't even texted me. Is she wondering where I am? So, dreams definitely have messages for sure. If we look at them, they've taught me a lot of things in the past, and it's nice to remember them and write them down and get clarity on things in life, because it's our subconscious coming to the forefront to show us something. So, yeah.
They're really good for if you lose something too. If you lose something and you can't find it, you can ask before you go to bed to be shown where is it. And sometimes you'll have a dream, or at least I have. I've had dreams where it's like I'm walking directly towards it, wherever, into the car, under the seat, wherever, like it just shows me the exact path to go to find whatever it is that I've lost. So that's very helpful.
when you mentioned the word messages, I searched my mind. I knew that recently I'd had some experience with messages, and I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Fools Rush In. Is that familiar to Sandy? Okay, it's a really good movie. It's a very enjoyable movie. Selma Hayek. I wish I could think of the man. I think I'm not real good at remembering that, but I can certainly picture him in my mind. But I would say the last half of the movie, at least, he connected with the idea. She had always liked the idea of messages, and he finally connected with it. And he was walking in the street of New York, and a man said, "There's always a message or something." And he says, "What did you say?" There's a message, and then there was another message, and there was another message, and then there was a little girl that looked like Salma Hayek. You would expect would look like a little girl of hers, and her name was the same. And I don't think I've ever been conscious enough of that sort of thing, of messages, that I would be able to rack them up like that. But I want to become more aware, more. I, I can't think of anyone in my family that would think that made sense. And I would like, oh, that reminds me, and I probably talked about this in a meeting, a couple months ago. My uncle had appeared in in a dream, and then every time I went into the bathroom, I thought of him again. And finally, I made my first effort to reach out to a medium. And I wish I'd done that with you, Catherine. I really just simply didn't even think of it. But the medium said something to the extent, oh, that he just felt like I would be the one most likely to accept a message. And so maybe I'm on my way. Who knows?
This kind of makes me what we're talking about makes me kind of also think a lot of like the Matrix of the Matrix movies and how you know connected and all that and now it makes having gone through some of the books we've gone through and some of the things we've gone through, it doesn't make me question my faith. It just makes me question how I'm interpreting it sometimes and how I'm understanding it, and to try and be more open to whatever I'm being told, because I do get strong. I can't even explain them. It's a strong, lack of a better word, gut feeling I get sometimes that this is what I need to go do, or this is where I need to go, or that's what I need to but I can't explain that feeling. It's just it's in me. That's all I can say. I just sense it, and I don't know if that's me still not totally open and responding, but yet have the door open, that sliver or something. But I do at times get these just like, okay, even though I might go one direction, but I'm feeling like, no, I really need to, and yet I'm still going that direction, and I get this sense of like, no, you really need to. And sometimes I don't follow it, and other times I do. And when I follow it, it usually gets me somewhere closer, or gives me an answer in a slight way that is what I'm looking for. So that's the best way I can explain it.
I definitely think that thoughts become things, and there is nothing that we're looking at or can see or touch that wasn't a thought first and someone brought it into being. And so we need to be careful of what we're thinking. You don't want to especially these days, there's so much crazy going on. You don't want to be causing harm for yourself or anyone else. So to be mindful of our thoughts. And what keeps coming to my mind in thoughts or whatever lately are that very sentence that he read there. As a man thinketh, so is he. And all of this impression that we get from quote unquote movies and other people's realities. I just keep getting impressed with the thought or the concept of peace, be still. It's the only way we're going to get through this. So that's good for now.
I think it's interesting. We really think about this whole idea of thoughts creating our reality. And I think that many of us who have read a lot of books or who have worked on personal development or who have examined these different things, or even if you're just thinking about it now and coming to these realizations, we're realizing this is true, or at least it seems true in a lot of different ways. And if that's true, then how far removed is it to think that we actually thought ourselves into being in the first place? And that's what that's what they're alluding to in this chapter, is that we just literally thought ourselves into being. And it's just fascinating, because when we can experience anything that we want, if we create it in our mind, and we just have this kind of illusion, if you will, or is it an illusion that this reality, this, knock on wood, this the stuff that we can like feel is our reality. But yet at the same time, we can go into a meditation and feel that that is as real as anything that we might have in our memory. And our dream can be as real. I mean, sometimes I know that you guys have all experienced dreams that you literally feel like you are there and it is happening. And the only thing that is the difference between it happening there and you being here is you just, you wake up and you're here instead of there. And so it's it's just a mind boggling kind of a thing. And, in the beginning of the book, and it's talking about, if you examine anything down at a small enough level, you see all this space in between the known particles, right? And then if you zoom way out and you look way out into the universe and you see how vast the universe is, it's like the same thing. Like you zoom way down and it's all space and little particles, and you zoom way out and it's all space and little particles. And I was reading an article, I didn't really read the article. It just like popped up somewhere, either on my Google News feed or Facebook. I don't know where it was an article. I didn't have time to read it, but the statement was, it showed a picture of kind of a a view of space, and the description was basically something to the effect of they're discovering that the way that the universe looks in space is very similar to the way that our brain function, neurons, the fire and stuff like that. You know how in the TV shows and the movies they zoom in and they show like the brain having its little brain functions and firings and this and that and the other, and then they show this picture of the universe and it looks very similar. So it's just really fascinating to think, however you look at things, it all could just be, it's just a big illusion, or it's anything we think it is, and it doesn't really even matter. We just happen to be able to feel this right here in this existence, although I've been in a dream and felt like I could feel something the same way. So trippy, that's what it is. Just one big LSD trip, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't get everything that you said because I had to step away from it, but that's interesting. You make the analogy about the universe and our brains kind of, and if it and with that analogy, that kind of coincides to what he's trying to postulate in the book, and what, that it is all encompassing. So why wouldn't it operate? Wouldn't everything operate in that same similar manner and energy and everything like that? And who says that there isn't something out there just because we haven't found it? And but I'm sure there's other types of lives out there, within that whole matter, and with other manifestations that we're a part of that we just don't, I don't want to say don't understand. We have not fully revealed to ourselves, I guess, or in that sense, or that. But to me, now that you said that, and when I do, and I've seen pictures of when they show the brain, and then they show some things out there, it does look similar, and so it makes me think about that, and now it's like, okay, another question for me to look at, and and go back to this book and read more, because these are questions and things a lot of people, I think, have problems talking about or wanting to talk about. And even here, even now with us, we're all talking about it, but we're all still kind of, like, we're trying to figure it out. And so I think in here, that's part of what we're doing. So it makes it, because sometimes we'll all be jumping out and have ideas and thoughts and processes on everything, but sometimes we'll come across these subjects like this, and we all tend to think and examine it a little bit more, I think. So I think that's interesting what you were saying there about the universe and our brains.
I had one other thought. I know you guys want to talk. Everybody wants to jump out on this. But I remembered the first thing that popped into my head when I saw that little blip of an article was that we're all inside of a brain. Like, okay, like the nesting dolls. You guys have seen the little dolls. You open the doll and there's another doll, and you open the doll and there's another doll, and you open it, and it just, it could infinitely go on forever if you went big or, whatever. I'm like, when they mentioned that, I was like, oh dang, what if our universe is literally the brain of another being that's just so big? Kind of like, okay, we've looked at we've looked at this back before. At one point, I know I mentioned the story of Horton Hears a Who, and he looks down on this tiny little thing, and it's this whole entire world in there. It's so tiny, and only Horton can hear it. So, but there's absolutely no reason, with everything that we do know scientifically, to think that maybe that isn't a possibility, that we aren't even really here. We're just thoughts inside some big brain. And if that's the case, then it's very possible that there could be all of this inside our brain, And so maybe that God is the brain that we're all inside of. And I don't know, just and then again, we're the God of all the things that are inside our brain. Like a big slinky in a circle. You know.
I had that same exact thought earlier too when we were talking about that. I'm just like, maybe we're just the brain of God. Like that's just all we are, is we're just all the little pieces of a brain, and every person makes up a part of the brain, because your brain has so many different functions as is, and there's so much going on, and like there's already so many, like what if Earth is just the, or you know, the universe is just the brain of God, like you were saying, like what? Like I thought that, but I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds a little crazy. We'll see how the conversation goes. Then maybe I'll pipe up with it. But yeah, that's actually, yeah. Like maybe what if? That's not really that, like Mom was saying, that far off to maybe that's right. You know, maybe that's why we think of them as a God, because we're the brain. And we're like, oh, we have to take care of this person. We love this person. We got to take care of this being, so we can survive as well too. But we also love it so much, and that's how we see it, and that's why it's God. And you know, maybe that's what's going on in our minds, and like all the little thoughts and whatnot are just all the little beings inside the brain like us. So maybe.
All I can say is welcome to my world, y'all. It gets crazier by the day, believe me.
I just realized we're already past the top of the hour. We got started a little bit late this morning, and so we're running a little bit late. But this is such a fascinating thought process to go through all of this, and you know, as we go further into this chapter, it talks about you know, he asked the question, why would I create this individualized, you know, uh, separated thing of myself? Why would I do that? Why would I choose to say, God, peace out, I'm gonna go and do my own thing for a while? And it, you know, but it brings me back to the idea of you know, because they start to say that you know, we've chosen this, we've chosen our parents, we've chosen this experience, et cetera, et cetera. And you know, of course, brings me back to the previous book that we were talking about, Your Soul's Plan, where we make this plan and we come here and we experience this. And yet on that same token, if we're talking about us, let's just say, for instance, this whole brain theory of we're all the thoughts inside of this brain, and the brain is the next level of being, if you will. And then we look down into our own brains and all the thoughts that are going on in our brains, and it's just all one big huge imagination in every way, shape, or form. That's why, you know, that would be the why. It's because we're just, and thoughts are energy, and energy are thoughts, and here we are having all these billions of thoughts in our own head, and then we're having this collective thought experience. And um, it's a really interesting idea, for sure, for sure. So okay, so we're at the top of the hour, so everybody kind of share a final thought, and then we can wrap it up for today.
I'll go first. I think it goes back to a little bit of what you were saying and what Catherine just said, that, you know, um, for some people, they're a little more in tune and they deal with a lot more. And since maybe they're on overload because of the fact that so many of us in the world are not connecting the way that we should, for, I think, lack of a better way of saying it, um, or understanding or believing, or however you want to put it. Um, and maybe they're the ones that are getting those messages more to help get other people more in tune. And also, I think, um, that it might be also where we have all our conflict coming where within ourselves too, is because we have so much within ourselves going on, and then we have, like you said, the stuff from, you know, those soft little whispers or whatever coming from out there, and then we have, you know, that we're conflicted, and so we're still trying to figure it out too. So I think that's a lot of what even I'm dealing with right now, because I'm like, okay, some of, you know, some of this I've got to marinate and think over and really go, oh, okay, you know, where do I fall in that too?
I like what Lori said earlier about how we, need to be really careful about our thoughts right now. There is a lot of unrest in the world right now, on so many different levels, and this could be. I'm not saying don't do anything that's, like, don't misinterpret what I'm about to say, but I really think that right now one of the best things that we can do for the world is to find that happy place and be there and like emanate that shit. Because the world has never needed love more than it does now. Like, there's a song, "The World Needs Love." It really does. And if people can just step back out of their angst for a minute and recognize that energy does transmit, and it causes things to happen. I'm not saying, get so paranoid about every thought that you are in a corner, on psych drugs now, but I'm just saying, notice the thought, because like I said, I have thoughts where I just want to decapitate somebody. So, my thoughts are not always peaceful, but I recognize that thought, and I actually developed, I did it for a friend, but I use it myself, which is how things work, right? Because you always teach what you most need to hear and things like that. But I had a friend that was dealing with, she had a lot of angst energy towards someone in particular, and she just couldn't get through that. Like, she had that energy and she needed to do something with it. And she was asking me about doing some things with it that I knew through universal laws, if she did that with that energy, it was going to come back and bitch slap her. So I developed this tool for her to get rid of that energy. It was a safe place for her to put that energy where it wasn't going to have the negative effects. And I think that's what we need to do right now, is transmute. Because we're going to have some negative thoughts, guys. We just are, with everything going on. It's just like, if you're not, then you're the one that's probably crazy. So, but if we can find a way to transmute that into something positive, then that's what we need to do. Love you guys. Thanks for this conversation.
Yes, good reminders. For last year, I was doing a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, and it was just like things were manifesting like crazy, and I sort of fell out of it the past few months. And I started this week again because I realized, like, these negative things were just repeating in my life, in my mind, and of course externally it manifests. So, like, Sandy, you got to get back on these meditations, no matter what. Just do them. So I started this week, and it's amazing. It's just in seconds you're shifted, and it's so important, to really transmute those negative thoughts or negative feelings and emotions, because it starts to go on a repeat cycle, and it just starts to manifest in the outer world around you. And as soon as you change it in an instant, it's everything's like, duh, like I could have been here the whole time. I was listening to a channeler. She does like a weekly video lately. She channels a being from maybe Pleiadians, or I don't remember exactly, from another dimension. And this week he was saying, the guy that she channels was saying, it's so important right now to, like you were saying, Catherine, to have that vibe of what we want to have the world be, and how we want others to feel, like be that example, because we need examples of how to walk through the world and be in the world right now, because other people can feel it, of course. So he said something that you can say, you know, throughout the day, whether it's to yourself or out loud, it will lift up the world right now. So it's, I am love, I am light, I am truth, I am. So that stuck with me after I heard it, and that in my mind all week, and just imagining it uplifting others around me, others in the world, and uplifting, yeah. So just even saying that, I'll repeat it again in case anybody wants. I am love, I am light, I am truth, I am. So these simple little things can do so much for the world. It's all energy. So yeah.
Sandy, that reminds me of what Samantha shared with us last week, I think there were about 4 different things that she had picked up from different people. Joe Vitale's and the different ones. And that is a beautiful one to add to it. And, you know, that mix, think about that, the mix of those thoughts that you consciously bring to the fore, maybe just once a day, maybe just right before going to bed, first thing in the morning when you get up, what a difference it can make. And you have thoughts that are welcome in your world for the day. And I just love what we do for one another. I just love that we have these meetings to look forward to, and the opportunity to speak with one another, share things with each other every week. I can't imagine that there would be people who wouldn't want to do this and grow from it. Thank you, Samantha, for having this idea, this thought years ago, and bringing it out for all of us. And then every one of you for joining with us and making this possible to share. Have a good week, everybody. Love you guys.
I'm so glad you're all here too, guys. I absolutely love each of you. And for those of you who are watching, if you want to join in, we would love to have you on here, because all of us, we have a great group of folks here. We respect each other, and we appreciate everyone's opinions and beliefs, and I think that we all can grow from it. And it's wonderful. So thank you all. Comment below if you want to participate. Let us know. Right now you're probably seeing us live on Facebook, and just, you know, I always post the link to join us in our Facebook group. So if you're watching this as a recording on YouTube, you can find us at mindsetmasterycollective.com. That'll take you right into our Facebook group, where you can ask to join us and ask to participate, or just follow along with what we're doing here. That's fine too. And you know, comment on the video here in Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you happen to see us, and let us know you're out there, and let us know if there's you know, something that you've learned from this, or experienced, or you had a light bulb moment or whatever. We'd love to hear it. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.